Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about the Wind Summoner, or as we know, Way of the Swarm. So over here, first of all, let's talk about the talents. So your talents, you want to have Savage Garden, you want to have Double Dose, Tumble Roll, Catnip, and Honey Pot. And then on how you want to adjust your Home Moon points, you want to put 5 in Rumblebees, because this is your bread and butter. You want 5 in Rose Thorn, and 5 in Thorn Strike. These are the 3 things that you want. So now let's talk about rotation. Rotation is relatively simple on the Wind Summoner. I do recommend that people do not use simple mode, and I also do recommend using a macro because you will break your fingers if you are playing this manually for a long period of time, because you do need to animation cancel with your left click, right click constantly. Because whenever you cast your Rumblebees, if you cast it regularly, you'll see that there's a 2.5 second cast time before you can shoot it out. However, when you cast your LMB and then your RMB right after, your Rumblebees becomes instant cast. So I'll show you here, left mouse button, right mouse button, left mouse button, right mouse button. And you can see how instant it is. There's no 2.5 second charge up. While again, if you just click the right mouse button by itself, there's a 2.5 second charge up. And that's why you need to constantly be spamming left mouse button, right mouse button, and rinse and repeat over and over, which is why using a macro might make your life a lot easier if you don't want to break your fingers. However, if you do want to play it manually, what I would recommend is to hold down right mouse button and just keep spam clicking left mouse button, or do the other way around, hold down left mouse button and spam click right mouse button. It'll save you a lot of pain, and that is the core mechanic for the Wind Summoner. As for your opener, it's rather simple. Your opener, you're always going to want to open with your G, or your Rumble Queen. So the moment you start charging up your Rumble Queen over here, as you can see, you want to activate your Talisman, and then you want to press 1, 3, 2, and then spam left mouse button, right mouse button. So it's going to look like this. It's going to press G, you're going to press Talisman, 1, 3, 2, and then left mouse button, right mouse button, left mouse button, right mouse button, left mouse button, right mouse button, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And you can see over here that you'll be able to use Flying Nettles. So Flying Nettles is quite important because you're going to notice that when you have your new soul badge over here, the Wildborn soul badge, this is the fusion between the Courage soul badge and the Liberty soul badge. You're going to notice in order to activate this soul badge, you need to cast Wild Nettles. So if we look at K and we look at our skills, you'll see Wild Nettles and Flying Nettles are different, are 2 separate skills. So how do you activate, or how do you cast Wild Nettles? You simply need to have 3 burrs. So the only way to get 3 burrs is to cast Flying Nettles 3 times. Once you've cast Flying Nettles 3 times, you'll automatically be able to cast Wild Nettles. There's also another way to do this. You can also cast Wild Nettles when you cast 30 Rumblebees while having Honey. So you're going to see here, when I activate Honey and I cast my Rumblebees, you're going to see that there's a stack over here called Sweet Sting. And it says Wild Nettles available on 30 stacks of Sweet Sting. So once I finish casting 30 Rumblebees, as long as I have Honey, I'll be able to cast Wild Nettles, which again will trigger my Liberty Soul Badge. And the reason why I want to trigger the Liberty Soul Badge as much as possible is because the effect lasts for 9 seconds, and every time I cast Rumblebees, it'll decrease the cooldown of my Thorn Strike, my Vine Whip, or my Double Vines, which is basically my 2 ability, which in my case we're using Thorn Strike. And not only that, it also increases the attack power of the Thorn Strike damage by 1,800%. So basically, once you proc your Liberty Soul Badge, you want to be constantly casting your Rumblebees so that you can lower the cooldown for your 2 ability, and you can constantly cast your 2 ability as it does this additional 1,800% damage. This stacks very well with your Aransu badge because your Aransu badge gives you 3,000% attack power bonus when you're using your Thorn Strike or your Vine Whip, which again is your 2 ability. So your Vine Whip is going to be one of your main burst abilities because of the stacking of this 1,800% as well as this 3,000%. And then other than that, you just constantly want to be spamming Rumblebees, as Rumblebees will be the majority of your damage while you're waiting for your Liberty Badge to proc as well as your Thorn Strike to be available. So your basic rotation again is going to look like this. You're going to press G, you're going to press Talisman, 1, 3, 2, and then you're going to do left mouse button, right mouse button constantly, casting, and the only thing that you're waiting is to either cast your 3 again, or your 2, just constantly attacking. Your 3 is off cooldown, you press 3 so that you have honey. Your 2 is off cooldown, you press 2 again to proc your bracelet. In my case, I am using a tiger bracelet, so you can see over here that I am using a tiger bracelet because I did not want to switch my divinity bracelet to the new one. However, if you are using the star breaker bracelet, you want to time your honeys. You want to make sure to use the honey when your bracelet cooldown is off, because your bracelet cooldown will proc off Hive Swarm, which is your 3 ability, instead of your Thorn Strike. However, since I am using the Tiger Bracelet, it activates through Thorn Strike. So depending on where your gear is, your rotation may vary. And unfortunately, because of my ping, I do very, very low damage because of my Rumblebee's ratio. So what I recommend you to do, if you have less than 1 million damage, like in a parse, I recommend you to go to select training, and then you're going to select Moyon over here, and you're going to do partner. And what I recommend is for you to kill Moyon using your regular rotation. So I'm going to do that now. I'm first going to charge up my ultimate bar over here, and then that way I can get an accurate representation of my damage. So now that I've charged up my bar to 100, so now I'll do my regular rotation. I'll start with Rumblebee, Talisman, 1, 3, 2, and then I'll just start left click, right clicking, as well as my 2 and F. And I'm just going to be spamming this over and over and over and casting my 3 whenever it comes up. And we'll see you when the boss is dead. And voila, you can see that I defeated Moyon in about 3 minutes and 10 seconds. I did 917k DPS. However, do keep in mind, as I said before, my gear is not very suited for the Wind Summoner. I clearly have the wrong weapon. As you can see, Shadowforge Staff does almost absolutely nothing for the Wind Summoner. So if you are planning to go Wind Summoner, I highly recommend you to go to the Grand Celestial path. So you would go from Aransu 9, save up enough materials to immediately jump to Grand Celestial 6 and just go up the raid path, because the Shadowforge does absolutely nothing for the Wind Summoner. So do not take this weapon if you're planning to play Wind Summoner. As for accessories, you want to have your Twilight Temple accessories. Again, you want the Wind variant. However, since we can just switch it between Wind and Earth rather easily once it gets to stage 10, don't worry about it too much. Your necklace, you don't want to be using the Vortex Temple necklace. However, this is the only thing that I have. You would like the Prophecy necklace, as it does give crit damage, which helps the Wind Summoner a lot. It also helps the Earth Summoner, so both specs need the Prophecy necklace. As for the bracelet, preferably you want the Starbreaker bracelet, as this will allow you to proc your bracelet on your 3 skill instead of your 2 skill, which is much nicer, and it's much easier to control your bursts that way. Other than that, the rest of the gear is pretty much the same. So just make sure that you get either your Aransu Mystic Badge, the one for the Wind Summoner, or you can switch this to the Eternity Temple one, which is much better. However, depending on what situation you're in, it'll vary, because Eternity Temple is relatively new content. As for the Soul Badge, you definitely would want to go the Wildborn Soul Badge. It is much better. However, you can stick with the Ancestral Soul Badge if you do not have the pink badge yet to fuse into the Wildborn. You can just stick with the Ancestral. However, the bare minimum, you will need the Courage Soul Badge at the bare minimum. The rest is pretty much the same as the Earth Summoner, nothing too different. But for gear wise, definitely you want the Wildborn Soul Badge. It really does make quite a difference. But as I was saying about ratios, so you can see over here that I finished the fight in 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and you can see that I cast a total of 251 Rumblebees. So how do I calculate my damage ratios? It's quite simple. You're going to take 3 minutes, multiply that by 60, because there's 60 seconds in a minute, and that will give you 180. Then you're going to add 10 onto that because it's 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and that gives you 190. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the number of Rumblebees that you casted, so that was 251, and divide that by the time it took to kill the boss. So it took me 190 seconds to kill the boss. So 251 divided by 190 is going to equal to 1.32. That basically means that I cast 1.32 Rumblebees every second, which is very far from ideal. The ideal ratios that you're looking at is at least 2 attacks per second. In this case, I'm losing a ton of damage because I'm not able to cast enough Rumblebees. So if your ratios are below 2, I don't really recommend you to play the Wind Summoner. So as you can see here, I'm very, very far away from 2 attacks per second because of my ping. So it is not recommended for me to play the Wind Summoner. And I recommend most of you guys to test it out yourself. I do recommend you to at least kill Moyon in order to get a more accurate representation. However, if it does take more than 10 minutes to kill Moyon, then maybe just do a 5-minute parse and then just calculate it from there. But that's about it for the Wind Summoner. It's relatively easy to play. I really enjoy the Wind Summoner. The only issue that I have is, again, my ping, because you can see here, again, it's like 270 ms right now, and my ratios are abysmal. So yeah, really, it's very, very, very ping dependent. And as I said earlier, I do recommend using a macro. Do not use simple mode for the Wind Summoner. Simple mode is not very good for the Wind Summoner. And the reason why I recommend a macro again is because you will break your fingers if you're playing this for long periods of time with the left click, right click. As always, if you have any questions, do let me know in the comment sections below. And if this video helped, I would appreciate a subscribe, as it really does help out my channel. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.
What can I say except you're welcome? For the heals, the boosts, the rest.